Hi everyone, very good evening to one and all. How are you all doing? How is everybody? Can you all hear me? Very good evening. Can you all hear me, everybody? If you can hear me, please say yes. Perfect. All right, great. So getting it online also. Okay, all right. Nice all. Thank you all for joining in today. We have a great session coming up for you all. So what's the purpose of this session, everyone? Can you all tell me what is the purpose of today's session? What do you all think is the purpose for today's session? Why are we here? Everybody, what's up? What's the purpose for today's session? Hello, hi. Nice to see you all over here. Okay, can anybody tell me what is you all signed up for today's session? What is it? What's the session about? Hello, hi. Nice to see you all. What do you all think is what we are going to cover in today's session? Do tell me. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, preparing for technical rounds, how to succeed in tech interviews. Yep. Hi. Glad to see my team's also here. Hello, everybody. Very good evening. Nice to meet all of you over here. Okay. All right, everybody. So yes, that's absolutely correct. We're going to talk about how we can actually crack technical interviews. What are the things that you're supposed to do to actually crack tech interviews? And very specifically, if we talk about tech interviews, there are many parts to a tech interview. Okay. So, for example, how do you describe a project or a workshop or an internship? How do you talk about technical concepts in your technical interview? What happens when an interviewer asks you for a pseudocode? How do you basically talk about yourself? How do you research about the company? And yeah, what to say when you don't know an answer? Your technical interviews, if you know these six concepts of all of these different six concepts, you can crack any technical interview that's out there. Okay. So you will be able to crack any interview that's out there if you know these six concepts. Now, when I say these six concepts, obviously it's not just about these six concepts in the sense, yeah, I know how to write a pseudocode, but what about a code that has not come yet? Like, what about a code that you've not seen? Can you write pseudocode on that? So that's one very important thing that you have to do. Okay. All right. So before I go ahead, just a couple of announcements. Just want to share with all of you as well that I'm just waiting for everybody to join in because I think my team has just told me that I have to wait another about 2-3 minutes so that everybody joins in. If you're ready to start, please say ready. Otherwise, I'll just wait another 2-3 minutes so that everybody can join in over here. So I'll just wait like another 2-3 minutes. All right. So let's get started with today's session, everybody. Technical interviews. Now, when do you even give technical interviews? You've given your technical interview when the written round is over. And after the written round is over, then you're going for your technical interview over here, right? So many of you will be in that position that you've already cracked your written round. And once you're done with your written round, you're basically looking for how do I answer my technical interview. Now, in your technical interview, you're going to have one of these six different topics. One is they will love to for you to describe the project or the workshop or internship that you've been through, technical concepts, and all the other concepts that I mentioned about earlier. Let's start with the one that you're almost interested in, right? Which is about projects or workshops. So in a technical interview, how to actually describe your projects or your workshops or your experience, right? How do you actually describe those? So let's talk about that. Now, in a project, okay, there are three things that you should, this is the formula to describe your project. Okay. What it is, what it does, and what technologies does it use. What it is, what it does, and what technologies does it use. Okay. These are the three topics that you're supposed to talk about. And I'll just type some stuff here as well. So just give me 1 second so that I can type some stuff. Hold on. I'm just trying to fix something. Yeah, I think it'll be much better now. Anyways, so what I was saying was what it is, what it does, and what technologies does it use. These are basically the three major things. The first part, what it is, what it does, and what technologies it uses. Second part, your specific role, and then you continue in detail. And we'll take a very simple example to start with. Okay, we'll take a very simple example to start with over here. Can anybody tell me one project that they have right now? In one line, can you explain one project that you currently have with you? In just one line, tell me any particular project that you've all done recently or are doing right now. You can put it on the chat. Okay. So I come to know about it as well. Okay. So somebody said a social media app using MERN-Stack. Okay. Breast cancer detection. Very nice. Predictive analysis. Super. A lot of good projects that have been done recently. Okay. Birthday wisher using Python. Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. Okay. So let's look at project number one. Okay. And let's look at some project number one that you mentioned. And very specifically, I will tell you how not to do it. So I'll put a don't do this tag over here. Okay. Please don't do this. Now, I know you're all writing on the chat. I'm not pointing out anybody, but I'm saying generally when you all go for interview, what you end up saying is you end up saying something like this. Okay. So you will end up saying something like, hold on 1 second. Yeah. For example, I created a social media app. That's it. That's all will be there. Like the interviewer will ask you, can you tell me more about your project? And you will say, I created a social media app. Now I know our friend did not say that. They said a bunch of other things as well, but I'm saying generally, a lot of you will just say that and say, okay, that's it, right? This don't do, okay? Or don't just say, I did data science project. Please don't say this. This is not correct, okay? Please don't say something like this. This would be wrong. Why would it be wrong? Okay. It would be wrong because to understand what you have done, the interviewer is going to spend at least 5 minutes to know. Why? The interviewer will ask you, okay, what does it do? What does it do? The interviewer is going to ask you this. Then interviewer is going to ask you, what tech did you use? Okay. Then interviewer is going to ask you, okay, can you show me a demo? You will say something like, it's not there or it's there or something. And then the interviewer will ask you, what was your role in this project? Right? Now, the interviewer is going to spend the next 5 minutes doing this. You would rather spend first 2 minutes, but explain all of these things in one go. Now you'll say, sir, but if I answer everything before, what will the interviewer ask me? Exactly. The interviewer is going to ask you only those things which you tell the interviewer to ask. All of you should remember one thing about interviews. Interviews is like you are setting the question paper. Mostly, not fully, but mostly you can set the question paper. How? Let's talk about social media app only. And let's say I have created a social media app, but this is how I would describe it. Okay. The way I would describe it is we created or rather developed, and here you can do this. Okay. So developed a web-based social media application which allows users to upload photos and like others' photos. Right? I'm not giving the full definition, but this is something like this is what you can mention, right? And we used MERN-Stack to make this application, right? My role was to create the front end of this application. Okay, so this you don't write in your resume like this. How to write it in your resume? You can check out our resume review series. It's on our Edyst YouTube channel. You can check out the resume review series where we mentioned all of those details as well. So that's where you can check that. But so what is it that we're talking about? The formula is like this. What it is, when I'm saying what it is developed a web-based social media. So I don't have to ask you, is it mobile-based? I don't have to ask you, is it a desktop application? It's a web-based social media application. Great, I know what it's about. But social media can be many things, right? It can be like Instagram Reels, where you just have a lot of videos. It can be like Twitter, where it's just only text. So I automatically said here, and these are all saying things, okay? Don't take this as the project description in your resume. Take this as saying, describing your resume, which allows users to upload photos and like others' photos. We used MERN stack to make this application, or you can say this application was made using MERN stack. My specific role was to create the front end of this application. Okay, and then you can go even further, right? Now, if the interviewer is giving you space, you go further on with the details. I used React and Redux to create 3 different layouts, and then you go on further in this also. You further go on in this topic, right? So use React and Redux to create 3 different layouts. One layout was this, the other one is this, and so on, right? So you can tell till the interviewer interrupts you, you don't need to stop. Now, does not mean that you keep going on and on. There will be logical pauses. At that particular pause time, you can, kind of pause, and the interviewer can ask you a question. But generally speaking, don't wait for the interviewer to ask these questions. These are low quality questions. As I said, you want to set the question paper for your interview. The high quality questions are like, okay, for example here, right? What are these 3 layouts that you're talking about? Okay. You used MERN stack. Great. Why did you use Mongo and why didn't you use MySQL? What was special about this that you had to use SQL over here? Okay. My role was to create the front end. How did you create the front end? Did somebody else design it for you? Or did you follow some pre-designed things, or you just used a regular ready-made template? Okay. Why did you choose the social media application? Okay. If you had to make it not a photo uploading one, right? If you had to make it not a photo uploading one, but rather a text-based one where you uploaded text, how would you change it? Now you notice the level of questions that are coming. What are the level of questions now? Level of questions are about the project, about the technical questions. The level of questions are not about what is your role, which is basic information. What technology did you use? Again, that is basic information. Just because you used MERN doesn't mean they'll hire you. They will hire you if they think you know MERN very well. They will hire you if they think you know MERN very well. And here, when the moment you said I used a MERN stack, they're going to ask you questions on that MERN stack, right? This is what you need to aim for. In each answer of you need to set a question paper for the next questions. You need to tell them what they should be asking you. So this was one project, for example, in which what it is, web-based social media application. What does it do? Allows users to upload upload photos and like other photos. What technologies did it use? That's the third point. We use MERN stack for this. What is your specific role? My role was to create front end of this application. And then if the interviewer doesn't stop you, you go in detail. Actually, I use React and Redux to create 3 different layouts. In the first layout, it's just sign up process. But in the second one, I need to fetch all of the different, the posts of my friends and display them. So on and so forth. You can go ahead and, talk about all of this right over here in your detailed part. Let's look at another one. That you all have put on the chat. So let me take somebody else. Anybody else wants to share their project? I'll again tell you the not version and the good version, the bad version and the good version. Anybody wants to tell me what their project is? Somebody is asking, I have not a team project, but an individual project. In case individual project, you talk about all the technology part. You don't have to just talk about one thing. Okay. So somebody saying payment gateway integration using React. Okay, very good. Payment gateway integration using React. Okay. May I ask you one thing before I go ahead? Is this like, what is the payment gateway for? So you've mentioned it, but what is the payment gateway for? You've mentioned that you've done it using React, but what is the payment gateway for? My voice is breaking. You can just watch it on YouTube. The same session is going on YouTube also. So you can watch it on YouTube if you feel like. Okay, very good. So it was a donation website that was given as a task in my internship, as somebody's mentioned. Okay, good. So this is how I would do it. I would mention this. And this is not a project specifically. This is an internship. So we'll talk about this also. Internship. Okay, we'll talk about internship here. How to talk about your internship in the interview. Okay. So you could say something like, I interned at XYZ company, where I developed a payment gateway. Okay, I developed a payment gateway, or rather integrated payment gateway. What payment gateway was it? I'm assuming it's Razorpay. Okay, but it can be another thing, but it could be, I'm just assuming it's Razorpay. Payment gateway, Razorpay into, okay, it was Razorpay. Great. So I'm integrating payment gateway Razorpay into our website, which allowed users to donate, right? So this is not the best way to phrase it. We can phrase it a little bit, but I interned at XYZ company where I developed, or rather where I integrated payment gateway Razorpay into our website to allow users to donate. Correct. Used the Razorpay SDK for this purpose, right? For this purpose, and other stuff that you can mention is, so this is what it is, right? What it does, what technology that did I use? Used Razorpay SDK for this purpose, and also, or rather used Razorpay SDK and React hooks for this project. React hooks for this project, right? What else you can talk about is, after success message, user could access ABC, whatever your internship had allowed you to. So ideally what you're showing is you're not just integrated it, but its integration has helped you do something else also. Okay. And then you can go further on, you can go further on onto this. They could access ABC. I made this, I use the Razorpay SDK and I use the orders API, or I use the subscription API, whatever specific API that you've used of Razorpay, that's up to you. But my point here being that you have to talk at this level. So if you're at an internship, if you have gone for an internship and you want to describe your internship project, what you need to mention is you interned at whatever XY. This is what you need to mention. Okay, I'm not talking about the resume, but I'm talking about when you're in an interview, how do you actually mention? So in the interview, what you need to mention is, I interned at XYZ company where I integrated payment gateway Razorpay into our website, which allowed users to donate. I don't know what the donation is for. You can be more precise. The donate, let's say food, or other money to refugees, right? Money to, flood victims, let's say, right? Money to, so on and so forth. You can understand it. Poor, what do you say? Poor citizens, right? Whichever. So you can say what you want to say over there. So poor citizens. I used, allowed this, and then used, we also, to accomplish this, we use the Razorpay SDK and the React hooks for this project. After a success message, the user could access ABC, like they could access the thank you page, they could access the, they could access the NGOs to which they would want to submit this money, and so on. So whatever your flow was, you mentioned that, but don't just mention that, hey, I did payment gateway integration using React. Say a little bit more. Why? Again, what is the Razorpay SDK? They will ask you. Which React hooks did you use? They will ask you. How did you give access over here for this page? They will ask you this part, right? How did you use Redux for it to store the state of it? Yeah. So this is what they're going to ask you, or they'll ask you a little bit, like if it's an HR round, they might ask you something like, what does XYZ company do? Okay. How does the donation of money work? Is that only in Indian currency, or is that in international currency? You are setting the question paper for your next round. You are setting the question paper for your next questions. So that's the point. Make sure that you go detail, but don't just say any random detail. I'll tell you the wrong kind of detail over here. Okay. So some people, like, let me go back to the social media app. Again, don't do this, but I heard a lot of other people talk like this. Okay. I created a social media app, which is very useful for the world, as people are growing lonely, they need companionship, right? And you can just see, and we are helping them with that, right? Now, as you can see, this is such a, from a technical interview point of view, it is so useless. It is great that you're helping people fight loneliness, fight all of that, but to an engineering manager or to a hiring manager, they don't really care about this part. They care about what technologies you've used, because they're hiring you not to be a business person or a physical or a psychological counselor. They're hiring you to be an engineer, and an engineer will solve technical problems, right? So I hope you all understand what I'm trying to say. A lot of you try to explain the project in this way that, oh, you're doing a great service to the humanity, you're doing great things, which is correct. You are doing good things, but it's not the primary purpose you're doing your project. The purpose of your project is to showcase your skills, and that's what you should be doing. Is everybody clear on the project part? Do you understand how to describe projects, everyone? Did you all understand how to describe projects? Yes, no, let me know in the chat. What do you all think? Yeah. Any doubts on the project description part? Any doubts on the project description part? If it's clear, please do say clear. If it's clear, please say clear. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Now, I showed you how to talk about your project. I showed you how to talk about your internship. One thing I missed out, okay, about talking on your internship, and you should be mentioning definitely, is because it's an internship, you can actually take live data, right? You can actually say it is being used by 1,000+ people on daily basis, right? This one line will help you so much in the interview. If it's actually being, if you've actually got an internship at some place and they're actually got you to do this payment gateway integration, you should definitely mention the usage or any other statistic that is very important. So for example, you may not have created something that's used very often, something like you may have created a database backup system. Okay, so the database backup system will only be used by the engineers of that company. But let's say the database backup system is taking a backup every hour of up to 20 GBs worth of data or 100 GB worth of data. That is a good point to mention. So you don't then mention that it's used by 2 people. Obviously, it will be used by 2 people. There are only 2 engineers in the company. No, you have to mention every day 50 GB of data is being taken backup of and stored successfully. So identify that metric or that key number for you and stick to that number and mention that when you're describing your internship. This also is a huge plus point and it will get you a good question in your interview. So we talked about your project, we talked about your internship. But if you don't have a project or if you don't have an internship, then what do? If you have neither a project nor an internship, what do you all then do instead of it at that point? What do you all think should be done? If you have neither a project nor have internship, what should be done at that point? What do you all feel that you can talk about? Any ideas, any clues? Let me know in the chat. If I create a particular project for my learning only, yes, that's also fine. That is also fine. So the first project is that only, that you created for your learning or for academic purpose. Okay. The second one is for internship, and that internship is the internship is where you've done somewhere, right? And the third one is somebody saying we can create our own project. Yes. See, if you don't have a project, if you don't have project, okay, you have two options. Number one, mention your workshops. Okay, mention your workshops. Now everybody knows that a workshop is weaker than a project or an internship. Okay, it's always weaker because a workshop will last for 2 days, 3 days, maximum a week, right? But you can still mention your workshop. But when you mention your workshops, yes, absolutely correct, attended workshops. If you mention your workshops, can anybody tell me any workshop they've attended so far? I'll tell you the problem with mentioning workshops, but can anybody tell me any workshop you've attended recently? Okay, Git and GitHub by Edyst only, right? I think. Okay, Git and GitHub, for example. Okay. 2-day bootcamp on day bootcamp on MERN. Okay. AWS cloud. AWS cloud. All right, cool. Okay. IoT. Very nice. Very good. Okay. So if you don't have a project, you can either mention your workshops or certificates, right? But I'll tell you the issues with both of them. Okay. Or certifications. This is also fine, but I'll mention by both of them. So for example, these are some of the workshops you've done. Okay. What you should not just mention is just Git and GitHub. You should not just say I've done a MERN stack, but you should tell exactly what you've done in that workshop, right? So you can say I've recently done a workshop on Git and GitHub where I came to know how to initialize, push, pull, create PR, etc. in using Git. Okay. And manage a repository using Git. So the thing is, don't just say I attended a Git and GitHub workshop. Attending though, even I can do, anybody can do, right? Pay the fees, attend a workshop. The point is not just attending the workshop, but what did you learn? Only the serious students are going to learn something at the end of the workshop. So somebody is asking, my voice is not clear. I'll tell you one more time. Please just go to YouTube and search for Edyst. This session is going on YouTube also. Okay. Okay. Somebody saying, can we mention paid internships? Like, yes, you can mention that also. As per AICTE, those are correct internships. You can mention paid internships also. Although when you go ahead and describe, please make sure you describe in the proper manner, right? Please describe in a proper manner about the way I've just said in the last 5 minutes. Please make sure you're describing that way. Anyways, mentioning your workshops, right? So Git and GitHub, right? If you were to talk about that, coming to my projects, very recently I attended a Git and GitHub workshop where I learned all the ways of managing a repository using init, push, pull, and creating a PR. I attended a 2 days bootcamp on MERN stack where I created ABC, did XYZ, and so on, right? So don't just say I attended 2-day workshop on MERN. What did you do in that MERN bootcamp? I don't know, sir. I just went and ate samosas over there, right? That is not the way you should do it. Rather, what you should talk about is what exact skills you've learned over there. In the 2-day bootcamp, I came out with my own blogging software, or with my own blogging application where you could self-host, or rather where you could deploy. Sorry, let me just rephrase again. Came up with created a blogging project where users can post blogs blogs and also comment on others. We used whatever technology you used, right? So you used Mongo, you used React, you used Express, and so on. Obviously, those are the ones you used on MERN stack, but you have to mention all of the stuff that you've used over there, right? Same thing with AWS Cloud. I attended something on AWS Cloud. No, not like that. I attended a workshop on AWS Cloud where I got to learn about EC2 instances. What else is there? EC2 instances, S3 buckets, and so on. You can actually mention all of the things. When you say these words, again, you need to give the interviewer keywords for the next question. So what is an EC2 instance? What is an S3 bucket, right? Or over here, how do you pull from a repository? What is the difference between a PR and a pull, right? They can ask these questions. If you don't give them the correct keywords, then they will not ask you the next questions. And your interview might just become short. So you need to give them some meat, some proper stuff so that they can actually pull onto that and go back to you with the question. Okay. So if you don't have a question, you don't have a project, you can mention your workshops. You can also mention your certifications, right? You can mention your certifications. These certifications can be any certification. The best certifications are, now there is nothing better than an actual project, but you can still mention your certifications. The certifications that you would mention are typically, if they are accredited by a university, those are the best ones. Next, if accredited by a company. Next, if accredited by a proper instructor. If none of them are there, you can still mention whatever certifications you have. That's also fine, right? But that's the order generally. In the certification, also mention what you learned, right? Be specific with the topics. Again, you can say, I did a data science certification. Or you can say I did a data science certification where I learned about linear regression and how to predict the prices of upcoming stocks. That is better, right? Because I now know what are the concepts you've learned in that certification. If you just say data science certification, I don't know what kind of certification you did. But if you say I did a data science certification by ABC University, where I learned about NumPy, pandas, as well as linear regression, and then I went ahead and did we created a stock price prediction model. Okay. Now the interviewer knows you know about data science, and you are going to talk. We can talk to you about data science and all of those different questions about, okay, can you tell me about NumPy? Can you tell me about pandas? Can you tell me what is linear regression? What any other algorithms that we can use here? How did you implement this regression using Python, using NumPy, using pandas? How did you implement that specifically on stock prices? What features did you use of the stock price model? So you can very quickly narrow down the questions, because you are the one giving the questions, actually, because you are the one setting the answer paper or the question paper for the next questions. Getting an idea, everybody, of what I'm talking about. Getting an idea about, if you don't have a project or if you don't have a project or internship, how you can mention your certifications. Are you all getting an idea about this? Yeah, clear on this front, everybody? Okay, awesome. The thing is, don't bluff. Again, one thing I'm telling you, don't bluff. Because if I ask you, if you say, for example, if you said something like this, right? Sir, I attended a thing on AWS cloud. Okay. And I learned about EC2 instances. Okay. What is an EC2 instance? Then you say, I don't know, sir. Actually, that sir said EC2 instance. That's why I am saying EC2 instance. If you say like that, you will get backfired also. Backfired means this will, it'll be a self goal for you. Hit wicket. Okay. It'll be you will go from somebody who did not know AWS to who claims to know AWS but does not know. At least before you were someone who didn't know AWS. Now you're someone who is lying about knowing AWS, which is worse. Okay. So whatever you do, don't bluff on any of these things. Okay. So don't bluff of any of these things, and don't go on, don't just make things up. Okay. Now I know some of my good brothers and sisters are there who don't have a project. There will be some good brothers and sisters here who no project, no internship, no project, no internship, no certification, no workshop. Are there anybody like that over here? You can personally message me also. You can say me if you are someone like that over here, right? Because there will always be someone like that. So if you are someone like this, please just say. Is anybody like that over here? You can personally message me also in the chat. Anybody like that? Okay, there are some people. Okay, good. Okay, I'm getting that. What do I do in that case? What do I do here? Number one, it's not too late. Now, there is no substitute for any of these. Okay, there is no substitute for any of these. There is one very small substitute, that is, you could focus on technical concepts. What do I mean by technical concepts? You know, in every technical interview, they are going to ask you about your projects, but they are also going to ask you subject matter. So you could focus and become so good at the subject matter that they forget that you don't have any of these. That is one case. The other case is, it's never too late. Do a free course, project, right? Or get a project or certification, even if it's paid certification. Do that right now. There are tons of different ones. In fact, on the Edyst platform itself, if you just go to the Edyst website, there are about 6 free courses where you get courses on AI, ML, blockchain, Linux and Bash, HTML, Python, Java. There are 6 free, and I think there's one more anyway over there as well. But there are about 6 to 7 free courses for you to do, and you'll get a free certificate also. Is that course better than doing a project or internship? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you will not go empty-handed, at least, right? You will go, you will go there with actual projects and with an actual certification at least with you, right? So that's one thing. Okay. Somebody saying from where we can do free courses except Edyst, I think you're talking about. So Edyst is the one I know. I'm sure there are other platforms as well, but I would not take any name right now. I think Coursera used to have a few free courses back in the day. I don't know about right now. Udacity also used to have a few free courses back in the day. I don't know if they currently have or not. But at least for Edyst, I can tell you. Second thing I can also tell you is go again to the Edyst YouTube channel. And on the Edyst YouTube channel, you will find at least 3 to 4 mini projects. They're not projects, but 3 to 4 mini projects which you can complete in just about 2 days. Max smart one, those of you who are smart can complete in 1 day. For those of you who don't have that much knowledge with programming and so on, you will take 2-3 days. Go to the Edyst YouTube channel, you will find these free projects. Search project Edyst or something like that. You'll find these over there. So even if you are someone like my good brothers and sisters who have no project, no internship, no certification, no workshop, that does not need to be the case. You can still develop all these skills or all these things for your resume as well as for the interview if you go to the Edyst platform or the Edyst YouTube channel and other websites also. I'm not saying just go to us. You can go to other websites. There are a bunch of different places and you can get that. My point is, if you know you have an interview within a week, there is no excuse for you to stay in this state. Make sure that you change that state. Make sure that you improve yourselves and improve your skills so that you have something to say to them. Okay. All right. So I think I've been quite clear on this part about project workshops and internships. I think, is everybody clear on this? Shall we move on to the next part? Can we move on to the next part? Is everybody clear on this? Somebody is mentioning about, can I mention group project? Yes, you can absolutely mention group project. That is why I was telling that you need to mention your role specifically also. If you mention your role specifically, then we come to know what you did in the group project. Okay. All right. Others? All good? Any questions? If it's clear, please say clear. If it's all clear, please say clear. Then we'll go to the technical concepts part. We'll go to the technical concepts part. Sir, can we mention project from? I didn't get it. I think you didn't type it fully. Can we mention project what? Can you type it better? Okay. Others? All good? Okay, very nice. So somebody's saying, okay. Okay, somebody's saying, I completed the entire project myself. What should I mention in role? Nothing. You just mentioned I developed the entire project myself. I developed both the backend as well as front end. That's fine to do. Okay. Somebody saying, I'm from ECE. What should I do? I'm from ECE. What should I do? I'm from EEE. What should I do? I am not from a core CSE background, so I will not have a project, workshop, or internship. What should I do? Two things here. Number one, if you are definitely applying for a software role and you have no project, workshops, or internship, maybe 4 or 5 years ago that was okay. Today you cannot do that. As I have told you already, there are free courses and projects available. Please at least go and put those on your resume and talk about those. Okay. Does not mean you can't talk about your own projects. As an EC student, you can talk about your own projects, but you should know that it will not be directly applicable because they are hiring software engineers. Yes, if you are going for an EC role and you have an EC project, absolutely, please go and explain that. There's no problem there. But for a software role, if you're going to explain an EC project or EEE project, knowing that you have so many different projects available, you should not wait for it. You should go and try these projects and you should explain those in the interview. Okay, so that's what I would suggest to you. You can try explaining your EC project, but that will not help you that much because they're not interviewing you for an EC role. Okay, so that's one thing. All right, let's go to technical concepts. What are all the different technical concepts that you could expect in the interview? Now, in technical concepts, I'm going to divide it into two parts. One is about services companies, and then there is product companies. So I'll talk first about services companies. So services companies are your typical TCS, Wipro, Infosys, Accenture, Cognizant, and Capgemini, and so on. What are the kind of questions that they are going to ask you in the technical interview? Now, this is an overall list of questions or of topics. You can have some more topics outside this also, but generally speaking, these are the different topics that they like to ask on. Could there be more than this? Yes, but mainly this is it for services companies and for a decent access even product companies. Okay. What are all the things? They first of all need you to know your algorithms. So when I say all sorting techniques, it's your selection sort, insertion sort, bubble sort, merge sort, quick sort. All of these different sorts you definitely need to know. Linear search and binary search you need to know. In object-oriented programming, what is a class, what's an object, what's constructors, what are inheritance. Then after that, all the 4 different things of object-oriented programming, namely abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. You need to know all of these things. And when I say encapsulation or polymorphism or any of this, you can't just say polymorphism is the method of having more than one thing being referred to by the same name. You cannot just say that. Apart from in any of these topics, right? When I'm saying in any of these topics, apart from the actual definition, you should also have an example made by you. For example, if we talk about polymorphism, right? One of the ways you can explain polymorphism in something like, let's say, Python or in Java, right, is the substring. If I'm talking about polymorphism, you talk about the substring method, right? So if I like in Java, you have the substring method, for example, when you do substring, if you do substring 5, it takes from 5 till the end. Or you can say substring 5, 10. So it will take only between the indexes 5 and 10. And you can see that this is a form of polymorphism because the same name is being used in different forms to convey different functions. This is an example I have taken. You can take your own examples, but go ready with the examples. For example, somebody asks you, okay, can you tell me what's polymorphism? So you tell them polymorphism is a way of reusing the same name, but for different, but like functions, like similar functions. Okay, can you give me an example? Okay, sir. Let me see the example. Okay, sir, you know, like how we use a door, no, sir? So that door can be used in the car also, and it can be used in the home also. What are you saying? Like, why are you giving the example of a door over here? You will give this example because you're nervous. You don't know what to give the answer. So you're taking a random example that you're just thinking on the spot. This makes you seem, the interviewer will think you are not a confident person, you are not a thorough person, whereas you might be, but you just never thought of this, right? So any of the theoretical concepts, not just included here, like OOP especially, but also other stuff, like for example, if you're talking about exception handling, if you're talking about data structures, if you're talking about multi-threading, all of these concepts, you need to remember an example for yourself. Try to make it a unique example so that, see, if all your friends are saying the same example, they'll say that, okay, some sir or madam has taught them this example. Don't just say any random example. Take your own examples, right? Don't take a mainstream example. Take your own example. I'll give you an example. In inheritance, everybody likes to, say this. I ask, define inheritance. So people say, inheritance is where the child class is inheriting from the base class. For example, sir, cat is an animal, dog is an animal. So animal is parent class and cat and dog are child class. But boss, I am talking about inheritance. Inheritance is a technical concept in Java. What is this cat, animal, dog? What are you talking about? Tomorrow I put you in front of my client and say, can you explain the design of this? You will also say the same thing about animal, cat, dog. So in the class or in your tutorial, your instructor, including me, will give you such examples so that you understand the concept. The concept understanding example is not the same as the interview answer example. Please go with your perfect interview example ready. Okay. For example, if I talk about inheritance is the process where we define some common functionality in the parent class and specific functionality in the child class, so that each child class can implement the basic functionality as per the base class, but their own special functionality as per the child class. Let me give you an example, right? If you're designing a banking software, the debit and credit needs to be same for all accounts. However, for a current account, we will have different limits. For a savings account, we will have different limits and maybe an extra functions or lesser functions. So the current and the saving accounts would be the child classes, but the base class will have all of the common functionality of these accounts. Now interviewer is happy. You've given an example of banking. Banking is probably not just banking and engineering. You're not taking this cat, mouse, dog, you're not doing any of that stuff. You're talking properly about a software example. So whenever you take any of these concepts, abstraction is one, polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation. Whenever you take any of these concepts, make sure that you have an example ready. And for that matter, for all of these, you should have an example ready. Okay, don't go there and make up the example on the spot. Clear, everybody, this part? Are you all clear on this part? Okay. Other stuff that you should know, if you are a C++ student, you should definitely know pointers. It is very likely that before the interviewer starts or at the start of the interview, the interviewer will ask you which language are you most comfortable in. Please don't tell them, sir, I'm most comfortable in Hindi. Okay, don't say that. We've had that happen when some people say, what's your favorite language? Oh, my favorite language is Telugu, sir. You're sitting in a tech interview. When they ask you your favorite language, they are not asking you whether you like Hindi or Telugu or you like Tollywood or Bollywood. They are asking you what's your favorite programming language. Okay, so you choose, say whichever programming language you want. And these days interviewers really don't care which language you are using. Say whichever one. If you have said C++, be ready for pointers. If you have said Java, be ready for multi-threading for sure. Okay, they multi-threading, all interviewers love to ask. Okay, if you are if you've said Python, be ready for a lot of like anything that's related to scripting. So things like file reading, CSVs, JSON, or they might ask you, have you done NumPy or Pandas? In which case you'll have to explain a few data science concepts also to them. So depending on the language you've chosen, you may be, put into different interview buckets and so on. Okay. Now, regardless of which language you choose, stacks, queues, linked list trees, sets, hashing maps, all of these are compulsory. Everybody needs to know this. Sets, hashing, and dictionaries, or rather linked list and trees, not so much in services companies. In services companies, this is not asked that much. The other stuff is, but in a product company, you can be very well sure that this will also be asked. Okay. Now, the good thing about data structures is there are only a finite set of questions. You don't have many questions. You only have the standard set of questions. Make sure you prepare them and you go. What are those set of questions? Now, we cover them in our Edyst courses, but you can get them anywhere else also. You just have to type like, what are the queues, interview questions. So you have your typical reverse a queue, take two queues and interleave the two queues, cut a queue into half, the other half you reverse it, and so on. So these are all very typical interview questions. They never ask you this in coding rounds because it's too easy in coding rounds. But in interview, they can put up constraints as they want. So they give you those kind of questions. For example, they'll say, reverse a queue, but you can never use an array. Reverse a linked list, but you're not allowed to use recursion. Okay. So those kind of things they will give you, and that's more of an interview exercise rather than a coding question exercise. Other stuff that you should definitely, if for services companies especially, SQL, OS, DBMS, networking, it's always good to go and revise the concepts that you have studied. If you have not studied networking or DBMS as part of your syllabus, like you're an EC student, EEE student, or you're just someone who's not, your college does not have this in your syllabus, make sure you mention this to the interviewer. Tell them that I'm not sure of the answer because I'm not really done networking in college. We didn't have that subject. But as per my understanding, it should be A, B, or C. Like you mentioned, whatever you think is the answer. But make sure that the interviewer knows that, make sure that the interviewer knows that you have completed, they make sure the interviewer knows that you have not done this subject, if at all, you have not done. If you have done it, then you should answer all these questions. Even in OS, DBMS, networking, there are certain standard set of questions that are there. Now, just to tell you how to answer a particular question, again, I would like you to just go and check out the Edyst YouTube channel. Java, the major interview questions are there. For Java, the major interview questions that you could be asked are there on the Edyst YouTube channel. Please go ahead and check them out. They are there. If you like those, let us know. We'll create the same for Python. We'll create the same for OS, DBMS, networking, all of those things. But you have to let us know if they're good or not. Okay. All right. So that's about the technical concepts. Now, if you're going for a product company though, Product company, this is not really as just this. Okay, you'll definitely have these things. But on top of that, on product companies, you will also be asked a coding question. You're going to be asked a coding question, which is what we'll cover in the pseudocode part. So coding question, which is the pseudocode part. Coding question, pseudocode, where either you are asked to write the pseudocode or you're asked to just tell the pseudocode. So is everybody clear till this part, this technical concepts part? Is everybody clear till here? Any doubts, any questions, anything that you guys want to know right now? Are we all good? Shall we just continue as usual? Are you all enjoying? Is it all good? Yep. Okay, perfect. Just before I go ahead, somebody saying interview ask what is polymorphism. What we tell, please repeat once. Actually, some network issue. Please repeat once. Sure. See, polymorphism is what? You can go to the official definition, but like I would describe polymorphism as the way of defining a function or functionality with the same name but with multiple use cases. And then give an example. For example, the substring function can take both one as well as two arguments. If it takes one argument, then automatically the other argument is the end of the string. If it takes two arguments, then it's the start and the end. This is an example you can take. So here you are doing polymorphism, same name, different functionality is being defined by the same is being defined by the same function or function name, right? Take your own example though. If everybody in this session starts taking this example, then we'll have a problem. Okay. All right. Okay, great. All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's go on to the next thing. Okay, somebody's mentioning me about some assignment. Please do reach out to my team or to email at team@edyst.com. I can't really take that up right now. Please do email at team@edyst.com. Okay, can you please suggest some topics for interview if we mention JavaScript and React in a resume? So if you mention JavaScript and React, be complete. Okay, let me just tell you that also here. Just off the top of my head, so I'm not an expert in JavaScript or React, but just off the top of my head, some things that you should definitely be aware of is async await, prototype. I guess I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but prototype model, that's one thing. I'm not too sure on that part. Callbacks, right? All of your different methods that get inner HTML, for example, right? All the methods like those, right? All the different methods like those, you should know what they all do. What else is there? I think like these are some things off the top of my head. Again, I'm not a JavaScript expert. I will get some other faculty of JavaScript to talk to you about that. But generally for JavaScript, this would be the case. And for React, again, it's the same, similar thing. Hooks is a super important concept. Redux, I don't think they'd expect a fresher to know for sure, but at least the hooks you should definitely know over there. Okay, so that's one thing. In React, I can't really. I mean, yeah, initialization of app. What really happens when you initialize app? A little bit of JSX. They might ask you about that, right? So those are the kind of things you can expect in a React interview as well. Python interview questions, sure. So in Python interview questions, they can ask you. If we're talking specifically about Python interview questions, first of all of these topics, even for JavaScript, by the way, all of these topics still remain. Okay. So Python interview question, exception handling, file reading, CSV, JSON, classes, objects, constructors, inheritance, all of this for sure you're going to be asked, right? On top of that, very, very specific to Python. Yeah, I would say very, very specific to Python will be some very OOP specific concepts like the self attribute, what happens when you actually create a new object, those kind of things. But 99% this is already covered. So in C++, Java, Python, majority of the concepts kind of overlap. So you don't really have too much. Yeah, init is one thing, but generally that's covered, I would guess, in constructors anyways. So yeah, there's nothing specific for Python I can point out. The only specific thing I mentioned was file reading, CSV, and JSON. Basically any library that you're using. So if you mention that you use NumPy, then NumPy specific questions, Pandas, Panda specific questions, Seaborn specific questions. So you will get those if you've mentioned those. Okay. Let's talk about pseudocode now. Let's talk about pseudocode. So pseudocode is basically during the interview, you will be given a coding question. During the interview, you're going to be given a coding question and you have to explain how you would solve that coding question. Now that coding question it depends on how you're going to be asked to solve it. So if you're going for a services company, generally speaking, it will just be on pen, paper, and verbal. Okay. That's about all that they're going to ask you to do. But if you're going for a product company, very high chance that you will have to do pair programming. Okay. Or you'll just have to, program live in front of interviewer. What's the difference? There's a small difference here. In pair programming, the interviewer may also be programming. I'm not saying will, but may also be programming with you. But in most cases, you have to program live in front of the interviewer. In both these cases, it's a little bit different on how you do it. The easier one is the services one, obviously, where you just have to on pen and paper talk and give the answer. But even in that, you all make a mistake. Let's take a very simple question. Okay, let's talk about factorial. If any one of you had to describe how to get the factorial of a number, how would you describe it? You can take some time, write it on the chat. But let's say you are attempting the interview and you're gone for the interview and your interviewer says, okay, tell me how can you find the factorial of a number? Tell me how you can find the factorial of a number. How would you describe it? You can put it on the chat, take 2 minutes, but put it on the chat. How would you describe factorial? Okay, somebody saying n is equal to, all right. Okay. All right. So this is what I thought. A lot of different people are saying different things, but essentially fact is equal to 1. Somebody saying basically fact is equal to 1, then do fact equal to fact into I. Somebody saying use for loop and then fact equal to fact into I. That's what somebody else is saying. And yet somebody saying recursion, somebody saying for loop. Okay. None of these is what the interviewer is looking for. Interviewer is not looking for this. Okay. I'll give you an example and hopefully you'll understand this. Let's say I ask you, you just got down at the airport. Okay. Not the Bangalore airport. Hopefully that's a little bit messed up right now, but let's say you got off at Delhi airport. Okay. And I asked you, hey, I want to go to XYZ place. Let's say Taj Mahal. You want to go to Taj Mahal from Delhi airport. How can I get there? Or very simple actually. It's not even go Delhi airport or whatever. Okay. Let's go even simpler example. Let's say you got off the train station. Okay. And you say, I want to buy a ticket. How can I go buy a ticket? Okay. Will you say, oh, you go walking to ticket counter? Will you say that? No. Same thing from the airport example, right? How will I go to Taj Mahal? Use car. Obviously, I'll use car. I'll not go walking. No, I will obviously use some form of transportation. I will obviously use a loop here or recursion here. The point is not that. The point is, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in the program, right? Again, how will you attend the, I want to attend the Edyst session. How will I attend? Using internet, I will attend. Obviously, you'll use internet, right? But how will you actually attempt it? So same thing over here. Don't talk about the obvious thing, but you need to talk about the process. When they ask you the question of factorial, they're asking you not for the code. Obviously, you'll write the code, and the interviewer is not a compiler. If you tell to them in code, they're not going to just take the code and understand. You need to explain in simple English. What will you do? You'll say, start from 1 and go to n. Go to n. At each number, multiply with previous product and take forward. Okay, this is one way of saying. Okay, this is one way of saying it. Okay, I'll give you another way, which is slightly better vocabulary. So I'll say traverse numbers from 1 to n. At each step, multiply the number with previous product. Finally, product will have factorial. Why will I have factorial? Because each number of 1 to n has been multiplied in the previous product. And you can also say take initial product as 1. So you start with this, take initial product as 1, traversing the numbers from 1 to n. At each step, multiply the current number with the previous product. Finally, the product will have the factorial number. Finally, the product will have the factorial number in it. Okay. Now here I have not said for loop. Here I have not said recursion, right? You can use whichever you want, but you need to mention this to the interviewer that you understand the overall logic of the program. If you are just saying that, yeah, take for loop, take recursion. What do I take after for loop? So don't say it like that. You have to use specific words and tell what's actually happening. Now this you can do in C++, you can do in Java, you can do in Python, right? These steps are not unique to one language. You can do it in any of them. Okay. I'll give you a few other examples as well, right? Second. Right. So for example, as I was saying, it is not code. You should explain in normal language and you should use some important keywords. Now, before I, okay, I'll explain the brute force and that stuff also in a bit. Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So for example, if you're trying to explain the multiplication table, okay, you're trying to explain the multiplication table. This is how you'll print the multiplication table of a number. You will say product is n into I, whatever n's multiplication table you are seeing. Everybody understands this code. This is C code. This is C code, but I guess everybody understands. You're starting from 1 to 10 and you're printing the multiplication table of n. So you'll print n into 1, n into 2, n into 3, all the way to n into 10. Does everybody understand this example? This is the code. I'm not saying that this is what you should give the answer as, but this is the code. Okay. Now, given this is the code, if I have to write the pseudocode, this would be the pseudocode. Take I from 1 to 10, multiply I and n and print product. An even better version of this would be traverse I from 1 to 10. At each step, multiply I into n. N accumulates the answer, print n. Okay. This is, by the way, factorial. This would be more factorial, but at each step, multiply I into n. I'll say print n, right? Or print product. Right? This would be the multiplication table. Simple. Don't mention the code, mention the process that you are doing. All right. Some keywords that you can note down if you want to. If you are checking for if else, don't just say if a modulus 2 equal to 0. Don't say like that. Check if a is even. If you're starting, I'll say for I from A to B. No. Iterate from A to B or traverse from A to B. At each step, this is used in every for loop. Say at each step. So for example, if you are doing, multiplication number or factorial of a number, you can say iterating from 1 to n, at each step, do the following. At each step, check if the number is even. At each step, so on. So you can use this each step like that. Break from or end the loop in case you want to end the loop somewhere. Now, if you're doing arrays question or list questions, then access elements of the array. Don't just say, then I will do a of I minus a of j. No, I will check whether a of I or other element at I minus element of j is greater or lesser. So translate to English as much as possible, because that is what is going to get you a good impression with the interviewer. The interviewer is going to think you're a confident person. Okay. Other thing, finding, choosing, and searching. So for example, don't just say, I will check if a of I equal to key. No, I will find where key is located in my array, or I will search for key in my array using linear search and return that index. Okay. So not that what you are saying is wrong, not that you are giving the wrong answer. You're giving the wrong format. You are giving the answer in the format of a code. The interviewer is expecting the answer in the form of simple, plain logic. They are not expecting in the form of code. Understood, everybody? This part, did you understand? Perfect. Now, for those of you who are going for product companies, how many of you are going for product companies, everybody? Good at DSA, want to aim for product companies? Anybody say yes? If you are going for product companies, anybody here aiming for product companies, already good at DSA, wants to take up product companies? Anybody here? Can you suggest some common pseudocode questions? I mean, all of your, any question actually, it's not just common pseudocode, this, any particular question can be converted into this. Like any question that you got in your written round can be asked for pseudocode. There is not a set syllabus. Any question in your written round can be asked for pseudocode. Okay. All right. So there are some people here for product companies. I'll do a detailed tech interview for product companies. In fact, we have done that also. I think it will be on our YouTube channel also as well. But things you can ask, things you should be ready for in product companies. Number one, the question itself will never be complete, or is very likely it's not going to be complete. You should ask to clarify the question as much as possible. So for example, if they've given you a number, it's always good to ask for the range of that number, right? Is the range in the integer range, in the long range, so on. Or for example, they have given you an array. You should always get clarified the constraint. Is it just positive number arrays, negative numbers? What is in the array? So that's one thing that you should definitely get. So clarify the question as much as possible. Clarify the expected output. Do they want the maximum or the best possible answer, or they want to find out the number of possible answers? That will change your approach from backtracking to dynamic programming and vice versa. So make sure you clarify the question as much as possible. Then start with the brute force approach. So for example, you want to find out the distinct numbers in an array. The simplest approach that you could probably find out is, or you have to check if there are any duplicate elements in the array. Simplest approach is take each number and check with every other number if that is a duplicate or not. It's not the best, it's the simplest. That's the brute force. Mention this. Yes, very good. 2 loops, order n square. Mention this to the interviewer. Almost like, okay, so the simple approach, the brute force approach is like, I'll run 2 for loops, or I'll run 2 loops and I'll keep checking if this number is there or not. For each number, I check if the number exists. It would be an order n square. You mention this to the interviewer knows you know this answer, get that ticked off, and then go to the more optimal answer. Now, for the most optimal, you can take some time. But just the only thing is, when you're taking time, make sure the interviewer knows you are thinking, that you're not just wasting time, you're actually thinking. So you can say, you can think out loud, meaning that, okay, so we can't take 2 loops here. Maybe I can use an extra data structure. All right, let me see if I can use a set. Okay, I'll try to come up with an approach with a set. Okay, so all right, sir, I've got an answer. Can I tell you? So while you are thinking of it, you are thinking out loud. The moment you think out loud, the interviewer knows your particular progress, right? Otherwise, the interviewer will think you are just sitting there nervous. You're not able to think of the answer. You are not getting the step marking because you didn't say your thoughts out loud. The moment you actually talk about your approach so far, that will help you. Even if you didn't get the final approach, they will still give you some marks. And every interviewer will give you hints also. So you'll say, maybe I can use extra data structure, but I'm not sure which one. The interviewer might say, why don't you consider a hashing data structure? Then you'll say, oh, okay, maybe a set or a map might help you. The point here being, interviewer wants to help you. Don't just sit in a corner and try to find out the answer. If you're not getting the answer, think a little bit out loud. Interviewer will give you a hint. Okay. Now, for more on product-based interviews, we'll take a specific session separately on this completely. So just stay tuned for that. We'll take a separate session for that one as well, right? Order n with auxiliary space. Yes, that is one way that you can do it. Yeah, that is definitely one way that you can do it. Is there any other way? There might be some funky maths way, right, of doing it, right? Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's the other one. Correct. Yeah. Yeah, bitwise XOR might just be another way. Anyway, my point is not to get into the time complexity of that. We can do a bunch more of those. My point is, brute force first, think out loud, and then go to the next one. So that's about product companies. Now, some of you are saying, what are the main differences between service and product? This is not really the time for that. I'll do a separate session. Somebody saying how to prepare for full stack developer. Again, not really over here, but we have done separate sessions on that. So we'll guide you over there as well. Okay. All right. So These are the major concepts for your technical interviews, everybody. These are the major concepts that we've discussed so far. Project workshops and internships, technical concepts, writing a pseudocode, as I mentioned. About yourself, the best way to actually learn about yourself is go to Edyst YouTube, follow an HR series that we're doing. In the HR series, my co-founder Vasu has covered this in a very great way on how you can define and talk about yourself. So I'll not cover that here. There's an HR series going on Edyst YouTube channel. Subscribe to that and follow that. You will get the answer for about yourself over there. Two other things. Number one, please do research about the company you are going for. To this day, I get when people come for interview with Edyst, I reject them point blank when they don't know what Edyst is. Okay. For example, I ask them, hey, what have you heard about Edyst? What have you heard about Edyst? They ask me, sir, what is Edyst? I never heard about it. I said, then which company are you giving interview for? I don't know, sir. Some random interview came up, so I'm giving it. You'll be rejected there only, right? So don't just go empty-handed. If you're going for TCS interview, you should know who the TCS CEO is, what are the latest projects they're working on, what are the different domains they're working on. If you're going for Infosys, same thing. If you're going for Google, Microsoft, any of these, you should know who is there, what is there, who are the main people, what are the technologies that they're working on, especially as for tech interview, any latest development on technology. Did they launch a new AI project? Did they launch a new gaming project? Right? So those are things you should know, and this will help you ask questions also back. For example, when the interviewer asks you any question for me, you should ask them, what are the major challenges that you are facing in AI? I heard that you launched so and so project. What are the challenges faced with that? You can ask Google. I remember Google implemented free Wi-Fi in all the railway stations. What are the kind of bandwidth or what are the kind of usage numbers you're getting on that? What are the biggest challenges of implementing that, right? If you're not aware that Google did that project, you can't even ask that question. So be aware of all of the different things your tech companies are doing. You can spend a little bit time away from your Instagram reels, right? And your other platforms, and little bit read about all these tech companies. What are the different things that will help you in the interview process? Somebody is asking, can I use the same about yourself for both HR and TR round, for HR and technical round? Roughly the same. Probably in technical, you can mention a little bit about your projects, but at a fresher level, it's the same thing. HR and TR round, you can use the same introduction. You don't need to change it that much. Okay. All right. So please research about the company, everybody. Don't go empty-handed. Finally, what to say when you don't know. Okay. Finally, what to say when you don't know. Now, number one thing is never actually say, I don't know. Don't actually ever say, I don't know. Never actually say this. What you can rather say is, let's say I ask you about bubble sort. I'm not sure about bubble sort, right? I don't remember bubble sort exactly, but I can tell you about selection sort. Okay. Now, does not mean that this is a valid answer, that if you are going to get 5 marks for bubble sort, you'll get 5 marks for selection sort. Maybe you'll get 1 mark, maybe you'll get 2 marks. But that option goes away if you say, I don't know. Okay, that option goes away if you say, I don't know. In your project, if I ask you about the backend part and you didn't do the backend part, don't say, I don't know. Don't just say, if I ask you, how did you manage this thing in the database? How did you manage migrations part in the database? I don't know. Instead of saying, I don't know, you can say, I'm not sure, sir, as I didn't handle that part, but I can tell you about how we handled the shape of the data changing every time when I'm handling the front end. So you're giving them something, at least you're giving them the chance of asking another question, right? And a question that you know. So don't just say, never say, I don't know. If you say, I don't know 2-3 times, they'll say, this boy doesn't know anything or this girl doesn't know anything. Please send them across. Just say, send them, reject them. Say something. Now, in some cases, really, they will be completely different. They might ask you about quantum physics and you're saying, I don't know about quantum physics, sir, but I can tell you about merge sort. That has nothing to do. You can't really talk about it, right? Or they're asking about compiler design and you're talking about databases. That's not going to happen. Some cases you will have to say, I don't know. But again, mention that I don't know because I have not done that particular subject. I don't know because I have not really done that part. You are telling why you don't know, right? That we have not done. So next question will be, okay, what have you done? Can you tell me a concept that you know well? That's a good question that you could get in the interview. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention to you all is please don't say I don't know in your interviews. Mention something. Say that, okay, I'm not sure about that topic, but I have recently done this other topic. I would be happy to explain about that. Right? Maybe the interviewer actually tells you that topic, allows you to talk about that topic. Okay. All right. Is this clear, everybody? Okay. So somebody's saying, can you suggest some topic specifically for Amazon? Because I have interview in 3 days. So what should I prepare for in intern interview? Amazon intern interview, your project / internships, definitely they'll ask. They will definitely ask about Java. If you mentioned your language is Java, Amazon uses Java a lot, so they can ask you a lot about Java interview questions. And Java interview questions are there on Edyst YouTube channel, so you can check that out. What else could they ask you in Amazon? Obviously, coding rounds. Right? Coding round means pseudocode. That is actually implementing a coding question that could be asked in your coding interview as well. Okay. So I hope that helps you out. Yash, I think you're asked that question. All right. Anybody else? Any questions? All clear? Sir, like I done project on Monstack social media app. What question in backend they can ask? Can you please suggest? Sure. One of the things they can ask is, okay, can you describe your user object? Can you describe how you implemented the liking functionality? How did you implement the following functionality that users can follow each other? If you've implemented people uploading photos, how did you implement the uploading photos part? Right. And you can't just say by uploading photos, you just upload the photo. No, you don't say that. You say, I take the input, the URL, or I take the image, I upload it to a particular URL, and that URL is what I store. So you need to tell the exact mechanism that you're using over there. So those are some questions they can ask you. Explain your project question. So Madhu, I think this question is what we covered for the first 30 minutes of the session, 30 to 40 minutes. You can go ahead on YouTube and check it out. You can just rewind this session and you can check it out over there. So that's what we covered for the first 30 to 40 minutes of this session. All right. Others, any questions? Any questions? What to prepare in a topic in Java for interview? Okay, so I'll just put this here. These are the different topics. These are common for all of them. These topics here, 1 second. These are common for all. Very specifically in Java, you might have multi-threading, but otherwise all of these are common. Only thing that's very specific to C++ is pointers. Only thing specific to C++ is the pointers. What about Java programming questions? There is no specific Java programming question. There will be programming questions which you can do in Java, which can be done in any programming language. So there's no specific Java programming. Only specific to Java programming might be multi-threading that they may ask you, or collections is another thing they can ask you specific to Java. Actually, I'll put that here as well, collections. Okay. Technical aptitude questions. What do you mean by technical aptitude questions? You mean like MCQ questions and so on? Again, those will all come from these syllabus only. All of this syllabus is where those will come from. Sir, Edyst has any courses for interview preparation? Actually, I have Nagaro interview. No, we don't have a course for interview preparation as such. Okay, but that's a good point. Should we develop one? I'd be happy to develop one. You think it will be useful for students? If yes, then we'll develop one for sure. Okay. All right. So, yeah. What should I say for explain your project? Again, Madhusudan, we have talked about this particular topic for the first 40 minutes of the session. So you can check out the first 40 minutes. Come back to this link only. The recording of the session will be available. You can just rewind and check. Any suggestion for you for interview? These are the major suggestions I have. Other stuff that will always help out. Smile. Trust me, if you smile, the other person's days also get better. So just smile in the interview for sure, right? Give a good smile. Be confident. But when I say be confident, it's not just about I'll sit like this and I'll do that. It comes with practice, right? So be confident is like saying, go be a hero. What do you mean by be a hero? It's not like that, right? So it's about you. It comes with confidence. It comes with practice. And the way you actually do that is, remember everybody that whatever I've discussed today is just 10%. The rest 90% is on to you. You need to practice regularly. So there are two ways of practicing. One is actually practicing in the interview, going into interview thinking, hey, I'm going to get rejected anyways, let me practice. This is not a good option because you may have limited interviews. Other option is record yourself, right? And interview and continuously do interview with your friends, because many times these interviews are going to be online interviews. So make sure you do an interview with your friends beforehand, like on a Google Meet or on even on WhatsApp mobile. Would not say WhatsApp because it'll end up being on phone, but at least do it on Google Meet or on Zoom, so that you ensure that your background is okay. Like as you see, my background is a virtual background. So like that, ensure that your background is okay, and so on. So make sure that you record yourself speaking once, and you also do a mock interview with your friends. If you don't do that, if you don't do this mock interview with your friends, then you will go into the interview going completely nervous. You've never done an interview before. So make sure you do this. A lot of you will think you know the answer, but when you actually go and try to type the answer or say the answer, you will not be able to get it fully. Okay. So whatever I've said is just 10%. The remaining 90% is actually practice. So remaining 90% is practice. Okay. Right. So that is one thing. Now, if you all enjoyed the session, please let me know in the chat. Right. So somebody saying, can you please conduct more classes about this? Sure. We'll conduct more classes about it. Okay. If you enjoyed this session, please do let me know on the chat. Also, please let me know on LinkedIn. Right. If you found this session helpful, please let us know on LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, write your review, type whatever you found about this, right? And tag Edyst in that post. So if you found this session to be good, please go ahead on LinkedIn, type this session. Best reviews, the good ones get a gift voucher from us. So you'll get some gift voucher the other previous students have got, right? So you can definitely get some good reviews. Probably 1 or 2 good reviews will go ahead. LinkedIn profile, not me. Just go ahead and tag Edyst. Just go ahead and tag Edyst in that, @Edyst, right? Or hashtag Edyst, whichever. Hashtag Edyst or @Edyst, whichever you prefer. You can go ahead and tag. We are seeing all of them. So make sure you do that, and we will give out some good gift vouchers to people who have written a good review. So somebody saying, sir, if I am intermediate in Python, can we say I have fundamental knowledge of Python? Yeah, you can say that, like basics of Python, or fundamentals of Python, you can say that. Yeah. Will the interviewer ask questions based on resume only or out of the box questions? See, most interviewers are trying not to scare you. Most interviewers are trying to select you, not reject you. So first things first is they are going to ask you syllabus question. Syllabus questions means the question I just told earlier, the technical interview. So that is going to be there for sure. If you're on your resume, OOP is not written, doesn't matter. They will ask you OOP questions. So that you need to know for sure. After that, they will refer to your resume. Only if they've exhausted both these, they will go to out of the box questions. Most interviewers are not there to, ask you some, random questions on, okay, can you tell me how indexing is done on PostgreSQL? They don't, why will they do that? They just to show that they know more than you. No, not really. So most of the time they stick to the syllabus that I shared, as well as the resume that you have. After these two, if they think you're an exceptional candidate, they may ask you a couple of more questions, right? Just to see your general knowledge. But most of the time they'll stick to these two things. Somebody saying how to watch this lecture again. So if you want to check this out, you can always go to YouTube. This has been live streamed to our Edyst YouTube channel. So you can check it there. And you can also just come back to this link within about 20 minutes. This link will have the recording of this session. So you can watch this again. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you all for joining in then. Hope you had a good time. If you want us to do more of these sessions, spread the word. We can do more of these sessions when more people join in. So if you like these sessions, spread the word. Share this YouTube link with your friends, so that next time we get more turnout. The more turnout we get, the more of these sessions we'd love doing again and again. Okay. All right. Thank you everybody for joining today. Somebody saying, sir, I'm going to give my first interview. Please give motivation. Okay. All right. That's a good one. First of all, don't think of it as a first interview or a last interview and so on. Always think of all the interview as either I will get the job or I will learn something. Right? This is in every successful Edyst student has told me this. Sir, I started cracking interviews when I stopped caring about actually getting the job. So most of them said that before I used to be fearful, I used to be nervous. Then I said, you know what? Let me go and find out what answers I don't know. So they'll come back from the interview and they'll say, this answer I didn't get, this answer I didn't get, this answer I didn't get. And they write it all down. Then in the next interview, they go prepared with these answers. Then they get next set of questions. Then say, okay, this time I didn't get this question, this time I didn't get this question, this time I didn't get this question. And then they go to the next one like that. After about 4 or 5 interviews, you don't have any more questions left. Actually, you know all the questions, right? So don't think of it like I'm going to my first interview, I need to crack it, right? You'll be surprised. You go ahead and check Virat Kohli's record, Dhoni's record, any of these big players' record. Hardly anybody actually does well immediately on their debuts. In fact, if you do good on your debut match, right, you are most likely an outlier. It is not the norm for somebody to come in on the debut match and just play really well. Right? That's not the case. I think you've been if you follow cricket or otherwise any other sport, right? Same thing with football and so on, right? So you are also human. Don't think that you'll go to the first interview and you'll just knock it out of the park. You'll be amazing at things and so on. No, don't think of it like that. Rather, go and say, hey, let me see what an interview is all about. What's the hype? You'll see in the second interview and third interview, you're automatically going to be much better at it because you now have the experience behind it. So in the first interview, just get rid of your nerves and get rid of your nervousness. Note down all the questions you didn't understand or you weren't able to solve, right? And then go to the second, third. By the time you reach your fourth or fifth interview, you will know all the questions already. There will be no new questions left for you. Okay. All right. I hope that was useful to you. I hope, I don't know if that was a motivation or not, but I hope that was useful to you. When can we expect next session? I will let my team answer that. I'll have to check with my team, but there should be one in a couple of weeks, in the next 2 weeks. Just follow us on Instagram. It's Edyst me. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. You'll get all of these different notifications for it. Thank you, sir. It was a great session and we have learned a new point how to crack an interview. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, Manoj. Thank you so much. Glad you enjoyed it. All right. Thank you everybody for joining in today. Glad that you all enjoyed these sessions, right? And yeah, I'll catch you all next time. I'm looking forward to the reviews on LinkedIn. Okay. Looking forward to the reviews. So let me see what kind of reviews you all write on LinkedIn. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. I'll see you all next time.